Leveling of inflections. All this means is the dropping off of inflections over time. Okay, occurs in 3 stages. This is on pages 139 and following in your books. Unstressed final endings in the sound okay, become So, unstressed final endings ending in are largely dative plurals. That sound changes to an Whosum becomes whosun. Okay, we don't have an exact time frame, but we can actually see this happening. Then the vowels in those unstressed final endings are reduced to schwa. So whose notice, just becomes whose and then whose becomes whosen. It's the default sound in the mouth, just the sound. You're standing up, you're giving a speech, you can't think what to say, what does your mouth do? Okay. So, whosen. Finally, the N is dropped, leaving only a final E. The final E, for a while, is still pronounced. Okay? Whosen, whosa. Modern English house. But we no longer pronounce even the final E. Okay? This is why we have so many final E's left on words today. Silent final E's. Those silent final E's say nothing about the pronunciation of the vowel in the middle of the word. You know, teachers say, oh, it's what makes the vowel long. No, it's there because there used to be something attached to it. If you want to call it a fossil, it's much more accurate because all you're really saying is that the rest of the tail broke off. But this is the part of the tail that still survives. Okay? What else? Adjectives. Most of the Middle English period preserved the strong-weak distinction. If you remember last week when we looked at adjectives on your, where I had the cheat sheet in your notes, adjectives have some pretty complex declensions. Not anymore. Look at the inflectional ending. There's either nothing or an E. Again, across all cases, all genders, all numbers, all persons. That's a lot more simple. Okay? In late Middle English, the distinction's gone completely. So, what can you no longer do by looking at an adjective? You can't tell what case it is. You can't tell what number it is. You can't tell what gender it is at all. What else? Nouns. Singular nouns, inflections are reduced to only 2 cases. Nominative, accusative, and it's the same form, and genitive. Okay? Today, it's reduced to what? Genitive. It's the only one we put an ending on. If car is nominative, we say car. If it's genitive, it's possessive, we say the cars. Dative, to the car, accusative, the car, no endings. Okay? Plural, 2 endings. Final S and final EN. Boys, but we don't say boyin. There's only a few words that have the EN ending. Children. Okay. Man and man is different. That's a different change. Oxen. The EN ending is what's behind the ein in swine, however. Brethren, okay, is one. Old English, Middle English, they did actually say iron for these. Okay. Loss of grammatical gender. Remember, grammatical gender has nothing to do with sex. Okay. Well, if you don't have inflections on the ends of words, you can't tell what the gender of the noun is. You can't tell whether it's masculine, neuter, or feminine. So you take those off, and what kind of gender is going to be left? Analytical gender. Okay? Word order determines meaning with analytical syntax. This is where the boy hit the dog hit the boy are two totally separate meanings, sentences. Anglo-Saxon, because of the endings, you could have the words in the exact opposite order. You could have the words in the order, the boy hit the dog, or the dog hit the boy, and because of the inflections, they would mean two different things. Okay? Pronoun simplification. Page 144, if you have your book, look at page 144, and you see the pronouns there that are a bit more simple than we saw in Old English. For example, you lose the duel, the wheat, we too. Okay? Verb simplification. Notice the term I keep coming back to. The language is simplifying to some extent. Okay? Doesn't mean it gets more. Doesn't mean that it does not get more complex in other areas, but it is primarily becoming more simple. Okay? Many Old English strong verb forms are lost. Now remember, what are the strong verbs? They're the ones where you have a change of the vowel. Swim, swam, swum, as an example. You have that ablaut gradation. 1/3 of all Old English strong verbs die out in the Middle English period. By the time you get to the modern English period, or into the modern English period, half of them have died out. Modern English there meaning Shakespeare's, not today. Okay? Today there's only about 60 that remain. And even those are changing. Dive, dove, read newspapers, it's dived. Plead, pled, Every newspaper drives me crazy. Pleaded. Okay? I've just, I'll throw up my hands in despair the day when I see lead becomes leaded. Because it's going to happen.
Well, I've already seen that.
Other than like sidelines?
Yeah.
Okay.
An actual newspaper. In the article, was actually written by the editor of the paper. It was kind of sad.
Many Old English strong verbs become weak. That is, those that don't die out, they just change form. Help, Old English, past participle, holpen. Now it's helped. Burn, brunnen. Now it's burned. Weep, Old English, wopen. Now it's just wept. Again, only about 60 strong verb forms remain today, and most of those don't look anything like their original Old English forms. Some Old English strong and Middle English weak verbs retain the old strong past participle, like swollen and cloven and laden, though we don't use laden very much, and we don't use cloven very much. Even that's not really used as a past participle, it's cleaved. Verb conjugations are also simplified. Your book goes into detail about that. I just didn't include the details in the notes. Dialect areas. You have new dialect areas. In the Old English period, you had 4 dialect areas. Now you have Northern, West Midlands, East Midlands, Southern, and Kentish. Okay? In the Old English, the West Midlands and the East Midlands were together Mercian. Northern was Northumbrian, and Southern and Kentish were pretty much just Southern, or Wessex. Okay? So, Northern, if you pull this up on your computer, you can blow the map up. Everything north of the Humber River. West Midlands, from the mouth of the Bristol Channel up here, okay, down to southern Warwickshire, over here, southern Warwickshire, up to Manchester, and right to there, okay. East Midlands, the mouth of the Thames over here, up to Berkshire, to the southern Warwickshire, up to Manchester and to the coast. That's this area. Kentish, down here. In southern, mouth of the Bristol Channel to southern Warwickshire to mid-Surrey, down the Hampshire-Sussex coast, and the southern half of Surrey. Actually doesn't include over here. This is Cornwall, and Cornwall, they spoke Cornish. Okay? This is where dialect gets confusing. Okay? You have to know this for the exam. I'll tell you right now, one of the things that will be on the exam is there will be 3 or 4 Middle English passages that you have to identify by dialect. Okay? So, these are dialectal characteristics. Notice, when you look at these, some of these things are identical. That is, they share the same sounds in that dialect. But I've included them because there will be one dialect that doesn't share that particular sound. Okay? So, third person singular form of the verb. In the northern dialect, it's es, loves. Okay? Look at the Midlands, both east and west. It's eth, loveth. Southern, including Kentish, it's also loveth. So notice, the northern one is the difference there. It's the odd one out. Present participle ending. Northern, final, A-N-D-E, love-anda. Midlands, E-N-D-E, lavenda. Southern, love-inda. So A-N-D-E, E-N-D-E, and I-N-D-E. Third person personal plural pronouns. Northern, they, their, them. Because of the influence of Old Norse. Look at the Midlands and the Southern. He, hera, him. And variant spellings of each word. Because there are multiple variant spellings. Okay? Old English vowel long ah. In Northern, it stays long ah and is spelled with an A. Stan, ham, ban. But in Midlands and in Southern, what happens? It becomes aw. And the spelling changes. Becomes represented by an O. Okay? Old English ch. In Northern, it changes to k. So, chiriche becomes kirk. Okay? March becomes mark. Ditch becomes dike. And you got in Midlands and Southern, it remains ch. Okay? Initial, that is at the beginning of words, F and S. This is spelling, this isn't pronunciation. F and S. Well, it is actually pronunciation also. In the Northern dialect, it remains f and s. Forsotha and fox. Okay? Midlands, it stays Forsotha and fox. But look at Southern. Southern does something weird. We have no idea why this happens. It becomes v and z. Vorzotha, and the z there for zotha is initial because the for is a prefix. Okay, and vox, that's where we get vixen. Okay. Hua spellings. Again, this is weird. In the Northern dialect, they become QU spellings. So quena becomes when, quera becomes where. Makes reading Northern dialect really difficult at times. Like some of the stuff, even King James VI, King James I of England, retain some of those spellings in some of his writings. Notice in Midlands and Southern, it eventually becomes WH. Okay? The letter A plus a nasal. That is, the letter A followed by an or an Okay? In the North, it stays the letter A. In the South and in the Midlands, the A changes to an O. So North, stan, ham, lamb, didn't include it, but in the South and Midlands, lamb becomes lom. Land becomes land. Home. Notice, we keep this, modern English, H-O-M-E, but we don't say hond. We say hand. So there's a, in terms of what happens with the development of modern English, we kind of take some stuff from the Northern dialect, and we take some stuff from the Southern and Midlands dialects. Now, on the passages that you'll have to translate, or not translate, but identify, there's one that'll be pretty clearly Northern. It'll have some very distinct Northern things. And there's one that'll be pretty clearly Southern. It'll have some very Southern things. And then there's one that's kind of going to be a mixture of mostly Midlands, but it might have one or two Northern things, and it might have one or two Southern things. That's pretty much just an indication it's in the middle. Okay? That one you'll identify as Midlands. Some borrowings. These are just a few words borrowed from French into Middle English. Government borrowings. All those wonderful words that the French have given us. Like crown, empire, realm, sovereign, court, parliament, tax, revenue, marshal, governor, mayor, coroner, noble, peer, prince. Those are all the languages of government. Legal borrowings. Justice, crime, plea, defendant, judge, petition, attorney, indictment, inquest, fine. Military, peace. Old English word for peace was frith. F-R-I, foreigner F. Enemy, arms, battle, combat, siege, stratagem. Church borrowings. Ton of them. Look at the cultural borrowings, though. All the language of fashion, for example. Apparel, dress, robe, gown, garment. Really, what's the difference between a dress, a robe, and a gown? Okay? Coat, collar, veil, cape, kerchief, garter. Colors. Old English didn't have a color for blue. Didn't have a color for brown. Scarlet, ornament, dinner, supper, feast, mess, taste, beef, appetite, mutton, pork, bacon, sausage. Now, we're getting to stuff I'm glad that we got French for. Poultry, biscuit, cream, salad, lettuce. Can you really picture an Anglo-Saxon warrior eating salad? And it just doesn't work for me. Spices and herbs, language of cooking. And then I give you a summary there you can read on your own. And this summary of changes, this will help kind of, I think, guide your studying for the Middle English portion. And then, just because I'm weird, Royal Genealogy of England from Alfred the Great to Elizabeth I. And then you have some Middle English lyrics. And I was thinking today what I really should have done is I should have given you examples of dialect stuff, and I didn't do that. These are just some really nice Middle English lyrics. There are hundreds of lyrics that survive from medieval England. Some of them very short, like this one. Fulis in the frith, the fishes in the flood, and eam on wax a woad. Mulch sorrow e walka with, for best of bone and blood. Fulis in the frith, fowls in the wood, the fishes are in the river, and I must become mad. Why? Because of much sorrow I walk with, for beast of bone and blood. You can read those on your own. This one is really cool because of the multiple level of meanings in it. Eartha talk of eartha with wall, eartha other eartha to the eartha draw, eartha leide eartha in eartha throw, the hevida eartha of eartha ino. Earth took of earth with wrong or woe even. Earth, other earth to the earth drew. So how does earth draw other earth to the earth? Earth laid earth in earthen throw, grave. So obviously, what's the earth that is laying the other earth in the earth? Humans. Made of the dust of the earth. Then had earth of earth enough. Earth took of earth with woe. Earth took of earth. Earth, a person, what? Gave birth to earth with woe? Could be. All kinds of possibilities here. Okay, questions? The exam, which is next week, the exam will be like the previous one.